Let's imagine that you're about to record drums for the very first time. Or maybe you've recorded them before, but you've never been that happy with how they've been sounding and you're not really sure where you're going wrong. Probably you're not actually sure how drums are meant to sound in isolation anyway when they've been well recorded. So we're going to talk about all of that today, demystify it, and give you some super simple, foolproof steps to up your drum recording game. Today we're looking at kick drums, so let's dive straight in. Now, there are all sorts of different kick drum sounds out there. The way we're going to talk about recording them needs two mics, mostly because that buys you a lot of latitude later on to tailor your kick drum sound to your mix. If you're really pushed for channel count or you've only got one mic, well, listen through this video and you will be able to choose one or the other of those to suit your song. First up, this is going to be no surprise to anyone, we're recording a kick-in mic. Where should that go and how should it sound? First of all, let's have a listen. Here is a kick drum I recorded. We're going to hear just the kick-in mic on its own to start with. Okay, and now let's check that out in context of the whole drum kit. I'm going to start off with no kick drum mic in there at all and then just bring it in. Okay, interesting, right? When there's no kick drum mic in there, then you can kind of hear kick a little bit from the overheads and stuff, but it's not there that present. But you bring that kick in mic into the mix, suddenly it's right there, it's really present. And I bet even if you're listening on small speakers, like maybe your kind of mobile phone speaker, you could hear that when that came in. That is one of the great pluses of a kick in mic. You're going to get a lot of definition, you're going to get a lot of punch, a lot of clarity. It's going to be a really tight sound and what I call a really hard sound. What do I mean by that? I mean, for the amount of amplitude you've actually captured, like where your level is on your kind of meters, you are getting a lot in terms of like audibility and jump out of the speakers kind of factor from this mic. A hard sound is very intense. It's like a shot of espresso, like it's just pure unadulterated kick drum. Now, that's going to be very similar already to kick drums you've heard in like modern metal, like pop, anywhere in the last 40 years. Like this is a sound that doesn't take up that much room in a mix, but really, really cuts through. How do we go about recording that? Well, it won't surprise you to hear you want to grab a kick drum mic, like an AKG D112, Shure Beta 52A, or an Audix D6, something like that. And you're going to want to put it like inside your kick drum, basically as close to in the middle as you can get, pointing right at where the beta contacts the batter head. Now, that sound already should be pretty close, and we're going to want to just exaggerate how it already sounds. So that means boosting some subs, like a 50 hertz. Don't overdo that. You can always add more later, unless you're listening on a really full range system. Boost a bit of 100 hertz, cut out a bit of low mids, and boost a little bit more of the click between 2K and 4K. And that should pretty much be a similar sound to this. If there's like a beach ball-y quality, you might need to look at the tuning of the drum and maybe just kind of like loosen things off a little bit. If you're hearing a lot of length to the drum that you don't want, you probably want to dampen it down a little bit. Grab a couple of towels, put one inside the drum against the batter head and put one outside the drum against the resonant head. That should pretty much get you there. If you do all of that and it's still not sounding right, it's probably how the drums are tuned. So work with your drummer, try and dial that in a little bit more. But there you go. That's a kick in. It should be a really focused sound. In isolation, it should sound really weird and just like be taking your head off. It's like so aggressive. But in the context of the mix, that's a lot of audibility, it's a lot of punch, it's a lot of clarity, and it'll really help your kick translate no matter what you're listening on. So now let's check out the opposite sound to that, the kick out mic. Here's how it sounds on its own. Okay, and here's how it sounds in context with the whole drum kit. Okay, so you notice how different that sounds to the kick in. Do you also notice how similar it sounds to just the kick drum coming through the overhead mics? Check out the overheads. And now the kick out on its own. It sounds the same, right? It's just now that you've got a mic on that and you can control it. The kick out sound will be a lot more like natural, which can be great. But sometimes you really, really want that and kind of nothing else. You don't want a super hyper processed sound. Maybe you're recording jazz, maybe you're recording folk or something like that. This is the opposite of all our kick in sounds. This is not a hard sound. This is a very soft sound. You know how it kind of feels pillowy? That's what I mean by a soft sound. There's not a lot of sub, there's not a lot of click. This is all about just like soft, gentle kind of like hitting you in the chest kind of sound. How do we get that? Large diaphragm condenser mic placed just outside the resonant head of the drum. And again, if it's not sounding right, or there's like any kind of overt like resonances or like musical tones in there, you can just deaden that off a little bit, deaden off the resonant head. And that's pretty much it. In terms of EQ, you might want to boost some low mids, kind of almost the opposite move to what we did with the kick in, somewhere around like 150, 200 hertz. You might want to boost a little bit of 2K as well, just to get a little bit more definition into there. But it's kind of okay if this doesn't have a lot of click to it, because the point of this is the two channels we're recording sound really different to each other, but they play together really nicely. Check it out if we start off just with a kick-in sound and gently tuck in our kick-out mic as well. You see how it just kind of makes it a bit bigger? Like, it doesn't sound woofy, it just kind of takes the bottom end of the kick mic and just pushes it forward just a little bit. And it almost, I don't know if I'm imagining this, I always think it makes it sound a bit wider. These are two mono sources, but I think just because there's a bit more ambience captured in the kick out mic, it just gives this little kind of halo of a suggestion of width around it. Check it out. And there you have it. That's a super simple but really, really versatile way to record drums. That's what I use on every session, and it's served me well for many, many years. So I hope that helps. Next time you're recording drums, give it a go and let me know how it works out. I'd love to hear. I'm going to be doing a whole series on drum recording, just demystifying things, making things simple, giving you simple steps to get to a really, really good sound. So check back in soon. And in the meantime, have a great session, and we'll see you soon.